Hello, and welcome back to Underdog Investing. Today I'd like to talk about a book called Extreme Ownership. This is a book about leadership, and it's got very important principles in order to become an amazing leader. And I've read this book recently, and honestly I can say it's one of those books that could potentially change your life for the better. And so that's why I would like to talk about it, and I would encourage you to read it if you haven't already. But I just wanted to cover 3 simple concepts from this book that I think can help in terms of our investing career. So before I jump into it, let's talk about who this person is who wrote the book. So Jocko Willink, he is a retired Navy SEAL. When he retired, he went on to found a company called Echelon Front, which is a consulting firm. He also became a best-selling author of several books, one of which included Extreme Ownership. And this is a #1 New York Times bestseller. So he also went on to start a podcast called Jocko Podcast, which went on to gain over 1 million subscribers as well as 130 million views. So let's jump straight into it. The first concept is simplicity. Let's have a look at this quote from Albert Einstein. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So especially in the world we live in today, there's so much complexity, information overload. It's very important to be able to take complex topics and be able to boil it down so that we can understand it and explain it in a simple way. And the reason why this is important in investing is because there's so many different companies out there, and companies by its very nature are complicated. There's so many different levels and structures in terms of the long-term vision, the short-term vision, the financials, the different people within the company. It's very important to be able to understand a company so well that you can explain it to someone in a very simple way. So one of the things I like to do is I like to, if there's a company that I'm interested in, I want to invest in, what I do is I study it and I learn it and understand it so well that I can speak to someone that I know who preferably doesn't know anything about investing, and I try to explain it in such a simple way that they understand why I like the company and why I think the company will succeed in the future. And if you're able to do this, I think you're in a very good position to invest in that particular company. Moving on to the second concept. The second concept is planning. And the reason why planning is so important in every aspect of your life is because it will stop you from falling into traps and avoid unnecessary pain. Let me give you an example when it comes to investing. Let's say you've got $1,000 saved up, but next month you have to pay rent, and rent costs $800. If for someone who doesn't plan, what they'll do is they'll probably invest $1,000 into a stock now, and yes, that stock could potentially go up, but it can also go down. And let's imagine it goes down to $800. Now you're forced to sell that stock for a loss in order to pay rent. Whereas someone who does careful planning understands that he can put aside $800 in order to pay rent next month, and at the same time he's got $200 which he can invest. So now he's actually able to pay the rent, and at the same time, despite the stock going down, he doesn't need to sell it. So he's able to ride the short-term volatility and keep the conviction so that the company one day will become a 2, 3 or 4x, for example. So that's why planning is so important. And that leads me to the final one, which is decisiveness. Actually, before I jump to this one, let's talk about this quote from Jim Rohn regarding planning. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. Anyway, so decisiveness. So now you've gotten to the point where you understand something so well. For example, a company you're very interested in, you studied it, you understand it really well, you can explain it simply. You also have a plan, so you know you've got a certain amount of money that you can invest in it and that you don't need to take out for the long term. So now you really need to be decisive. You need to come up with a strong conviction and actually go with the plan that you've came up with. And a lot of the times people become paralyzed by fear of potentially losing money, for example. But what's very important is that you go for the things that you understand and things that you've planned for. And you're never going to be right 100% of the times. But the thing is, the actual mistakes that you make, you can learn from them. And the thing about successful people is that they make loads of decisive actions, and a lot of them are failures, but they see failures as learning points. And it's true when people say failures are actually stepping stones to success. So I just wanted to share these 3 concepts with you. Hope you found it useful, and I'll definitely encourage you to read the book Extreme Ownership. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Sorry about the cheesy music as well.